What is up, everybody? This is RybackStun. We have returned to Marvel Heroes. Today we're going to be taking a look at Juggernaut. This is a two-part video. The first part is going to be going over the basics of Juggernaut, his traits, talents, and any other interesting things about Juggernaut that we'll be showcasing. And the second part will be how the build itself that I am running runs. So if you don't want to listen to any of the other stuff at the beginning of this video, go ahead and hit the annotation that pops up somewhere around here that will take you directly to where the build actually starts. So, Juggernaut. Typical thing, Shield, X-Men, Thunderbolt, Insignia, all kinds of neat stuff, which we'll go over later. In terms of hero synergy, Juggernaut gives you 3% movement power damage, which is awesome. And then he as well, like many heroes, has 3 traits. First trait is called Unstoppable. You gain base damage equal to 2% of your tenacity, and his archetype is Tank. So he gains damage based off of durability and strength. Next, we have Indomitable, which is a defensive trait. Increases his maximum health. His archetype is Tough. He gains defense and deflect, rating and multiplier, and then because he's a melee combatant, he has 8% damage reduction. And then his specialty trait, Momentum, is his primary resource. Gain momentum while moving or using a movement power. Spend momentum to augment powers, gaining additional damage and other effects. So, Juggernaut's powers are pretty much exactly the same. There's nothing really too different. Crimson Force Field doesn't have a passive on it anymore. It just has your 5-second invulnerability duration, which is quite nice. In terms of talents, 5 tiers of 3, First tier protection of Sidorak. Regenerate 100% of your maximum health and momentum when you're defeated. Crimson Force Field applies Quicken to all allies. It also reduces Crimson Force Field's cooldown by 5 seconds. Quicken increases your movement and attack speed. Invulnerable Juggernaut. When you spend 100% of your maximum momentum on a power, restore 20% of your maximum health. It also has a passive effective giving you defense and deflect rating multiplier as well as additional maximum health. And then full force hand clap. Round of Applause now spends all available momentum to deal additional damage. If Round of Applause spends 100% of your momentum, enemies affected deal 25% less damage to Juggernaut. Tier 2, Mix It Up. Sunday Punch now spends all available momentum to deal additional damage. Powers that can spend all momentum have a 15-second cooldown. When you spend all of your momentum on a power, reset the cooldowns of other powers that can spend all momentum. Your next momentum spending power deals 4% more damage per 100 momentum spent. Whew. People's Elbow, Big Elbow Drop, damage is increased by an additional 2% per 10 momentum. Maximum momentum is increased, and movement power damage is also increased. Last but not least, we have Carried Momentum. Sunday Punch's damage is increased by an additional 2% per 10 momentum. Sunday Punch no longer spends momentum, but retains its damage bonuses as if it did. Melee, non-movement power damage is also increased. Third tier, Invoke Sidorak. Wrath of Sidorak and Scion of Sidorak share a cooldown. Both of their cooldowns are reduced by 10%. Wrath of Sidorak's critical hit chance is increased by 100%. And while Scion of Sidorak is active, your momentum spending powers always critically hit. Embrace Sidorak. When you activate Wrath or Unstoppable Charge, Scion of Sidorak is automatically activated. While Scion of Sidorak is active, your maximum momentum is increased by 500. Renounce Sidorak. Your Sidorak powers cannot be activated. Your base damage is increased. Your damage resistance is increased. Your critical hit chance is increased. And your maximum momentum is increased. Next, we have Ceaseless Momentum. Momentum generation from any other source than this talent is disabled, and you gain 20% of your maximum momentum per second. Crushing Headbutt. Big Headbutt always deals a brutal strike if used at maximum momentum. Barroom Brawling. Critical hit chances increased by 1% per 1% current momentum. Get Out of My Way. Devastating Charge. Instantly defeats non-boss enemies and prevents momentum from being decayed for 4 seconds. It also has an increased critical hit chance by 100%. Nothing can stop the Juggernaut. Unstoppable Charge can only be used while at maximum momentum and costs momentum while active. Unstoppable Charge's cooldown is removed, but it's reduced by 60% damage. Just keep swinging. Whenever you hit with Lariat, the cooldown of Unstoppable Charge is reduced by 2 seconds. Lariat maximum charges are increased by 1, and you have an additional 10% base damage to movement powers. One-man freight train. Unstoppable Charge lasts for half of its normal duration, but gains the following benefits. Increased damage, reduced cooldown. It also has a buff effect that increases your melee power damage by 40%, increases your damage resistance by 20%, and has a 10-second duration. So, all of that combined allows Juggernaut to do some pretty interesting things. Now, for the build. Very easy to go through here. We use Immovable Juggernaut to increase our defenses. We use People's Elbow to increase our maximum momentum as well as our movement power damage. We use Invoke Sidorak to reduce the cooldown of Scion of Sidorak, and while active, it increases our, it makes it so that our momentum spending powers critically hit. Ceaseless Momentum allows us to gain in 5 seconds our complete and total maximum momentum. And then the big piece about this build is nothing can stop the Juggernaut. Essentially, you use Unstoppable Charge as long as, once you activate it, it goes until you're done or until you let it go. You have to have maximum momentum, but, you know, every 5 seconds you get your maximum momentum no matter what, and its cooldown is removed, so you just charge through enemies. In terms of the Infinity System, what we do is I 100% increase my momentum by 410 for Deep Thought, so I can use Unstoppable Charge longer. We have 6 points in Strength to increase our damage there, and we also have 7% base damage to our signature. We have full Inner Resilience for the health on hit, which is important. We actually also have, it's not full, sorry. We have half our points spent into Magic Bullet, which increases our crit damage as well. We have points spent into Strike Through, Strike True, and God Among Insects for brutal damage, brutal strike chance, and base health. We have 6 points into Durability, again for the extra damage, and the rest into Micro Drops for the total defense rating. And then last but not least, we have Chrono Surge here for base damage to movement powers, which is super important because Unstoppable Charge is your movement power. It also spends momentum, and it does a ton of damage based upon how long you use it. Synergies are pretty easy. Ant-Man for strength, Cable for critical hit rating multiplier, Colossus for health and physical damage, Doctor Doom for signature damage, Emma Frost for durability, Green Goblin for area power damage and bonus damage while moving, Juggernaut for movement power damage, Moon Knight for critical hit rating to physical powers, Nightcrawler for melee power damage, and then Wolverine for brutal strike rating multiplier and brutal damage. In terms of items, we are running a Sacred White Gorilla Necklace for the strength, Crimson Crystal Sidorak for the health, strength, and damage shield, Fred Duke's bodysuit for the strength, durability, damage rating, health, and less damage versus all attacks, White Suit Jacket for the physical damage, health, and durability, Red Skull Medallion for the brutal damage rating, as well as when you brutally strike, you gain 2 durability and 2 strength. Relic of Gibberine for extra momentum, Unstoppable Charge for crit rating, damage to movement powers, physical damage rating, momentum cost reduction, using a Macran for the extra movement, health, damage rating, and crit rating, Midtown Guardian Signet because we basically only use momentum and movement powers here. Overseer's Mace for the extra strength, the physical damage, and the critical damage, the rest of his own uniques. Using a Mystic Energies with durability, regenerate, health on hit. I'd like to get one that has critical, the damage shield on it, excuse me. Insignia of Luke Cage for the damage rating, movement, critical damage, all that other stuff, as well as some defense and dodge for increased defensiveness. And then we have Mini Stark Tech Sentinel, which has got base health, movement speed, physical damage, while moving, gain 6% damage rating and 3% damage rating for 5 seconds, and strength. So using Doctor Strange as my team up because he's very helpful, let's go beat up Kingpin because I would like to get a cosmically enhanced white suit jacket. The build is very easy. Hit Q for your signature and just wreck people. So if you get a group of these guys here, you can use Enter the Fray, and I believe this is called Devastating Charge, to help clear out a bunch of them. But mainly you will just want to use Unstoppable Charge to clear out the smaller enemies, since there are plenty of smaller enemies in the terminals that you can use to clear them out. You can rotate through the enemies to be able to just circle around them and knock them out. Notice on the first floor I've already knocked out 24 enemies, and they just get more plentiful as you move through the terminal. So you just knock through as many enemies as possible. Yeah, you do tend to break a lot of stuff. That's okay. Kingpin's made of money. So again, if you get to a bigger group of enemies that you want to try to defeat without having to spend too much time unstoppable charging them, you can use Devastating Charge mixed with Enter the Fray, and that should take out as much damage as they need so you can finish them off with Unstoppable Charge. Unstoppable Charge also has the benefit of completely moving you through the terminal, so you get through terminals much faster. Big Elbow Drop is in the build specifically because maybe I need to defeat a large group of enemies much quicker than I really want to deal with. But primarily it is actually not used in boss clearing because it does not do as much damage as Unstoppable Charge does. So now we go to deal with Kingpin. Here I'm just going to run through. I don't need to damage all these enemies. But we get to Kingpin. Now, there's a rotation here to use. Scion of Sidorak helps here. Hit Scion of Sidorak, Unstoppable Charge, or excuse me, Devastating Charge, then use Enter the Fray, and then continue to use Unstoppable Charge until your powers have come off cooldown. Rotate with the Devastating Charge and the Enter the Fray, so that way you can do extra damage. Wait for your your Scion of Sidorak, to come off cooldown, so you can do all that stuff again. Make sure to hit your med kits when you need them, because you are going to take a large amount of damage in this build. It's interesting that happens, that you take that much damage. I'm not entirely sure why. I do have a lot of defenses in my build. It just seems very strange that I take as much damage as I do. But it's a simple build. You just rotate through, do a lot of damage. Charge, fray, charge. Medkit, don't get killed. Watch out for ground dots, they will mess you up. Ooh, and see, I just died there because I got hit by something that I wasn't actually supposed to get hit by. So, but we Unstoppable Charge, or Devastating Charge again. 2 charges, too many different names. But Kingpin is down. I don't normally die. If you guys watch my streams from time to time, you'll notice I go through this multiple times. It's only when I'm under the pressure of YouTube that the game is going to cause me to die. So, there you go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So, thank you very much, folks, for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did showcasing it to you. Remember to like and comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitch and Twitter at RybackStun. We attempt to try to stream Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. PST till about 4, possibly later, if people come and chat with me. So come and chat with me, and I'll stream longer. That's how things work these days. And yeah, so with that, this is RybackStun, signing out.